left to die and paralyzed. Until a human soldier refused to leave. One moment the sky was full of fire and noise, and the next it was only smoke, broken metal, and silence. The ground of the alien world was torn open by explosions. Black stone was cracked and glowing with heat. Wrecked ships burned in the distance, sending dark clouds into the air. The war had not gone as planned. The Allied force had come to take the planet, but the enemy had been ready. Their weapons were hidden under the surface. When they struck hard. Lines broke. Orders failed. Units were cut off. Retreat signals echoed across every channel. Leave the wounded, fall back, evacuate now. Among the ruins, an alien officer lay trapped. Her armor was crushed from the waist down. A slab of metal pinned her legs, heavy and cold. She could not move them. Pain burned through her body, sharp and deep. Her breathing was slow and weak. Blood ran inside her suit, warm and frightening. She tried to call for help. Her signal went out, but the reply came quickly and without feeling, non-recoverable. Priority lost. Evacuation in progress. She understood the words. She had given such orders herself before, logic over emotion. Mission over life, that was the rule of her people. Still, knowing did not stop the fear. She lay still as the sounds of retreat grew distant. Boots ran past her position. Hover units lifted off. Ships rose into the dark sky. No one stopped. No one looked back. The alien officer closed her eyes. Her species believed death was acceptable if it served the greater whole. But alone under broken steel, that belief felt empty. Time passed slowly. Then she heard footsteps again, careful ones. She forced her eyes open. A human soldier stepped into view. His armor was scratched and blackened. One side of his helmet was cracked. He moved with pain but did not slow down. His rifle was held low, not raised. He stopped when he saw her. For a long second he said nothing. The alien officer waited for him to turn away. Humans were allies, but they followed orders too. Retreat meant retreat. The human did not leave. He knelt beside her and quickly checked the area. Smoke drifted around them. Distant sounds of battle still echoed, but the main fight was gone. He tapped the side of his helmet. "Command," he said, voice steady but tired. "I found a wounded Allied officer. She's alive." The reply came sharp and cold through his speaker. "Negative. Evacuation complete. Fall back immediately." The human looked at the alien officer. Their eyes met through cracked lenses and dim armor lights. He did not move. "She's paralyzed," he said. "She can't move." Silence. Then the voice returned, harder this time. "Leave her, repeat, leave her. Enemy patrols incoming." The human closed his eyes for a brief moment. Then he turned off the channel. The alien officer watched him with confusion and disbelief. "You will die here," she said, her translator making her voice rough and broken. "You must leave." The human shook his head. "No," he replied simply. He examined the metal pinning her legs. His hands worked carefully, testing weight and balance. The slab was too heavy to lift alone. Enemy scanners swept the area. Faint beeps echoed through the ruins. The alien officer felt fear tighten in her chest. "Why?" she asked. "Your people ordered retreat." The human glanced at the dark sky where the ships had vanished. "Orders don't change who we are," he said. He began clearing debris, moving smaller pieces away from her body. Every movement sent pain through his own injured side, but he did not stop. The ground trembled as distant weapons fired again. The enemy was regrouping. The alien officer's breathing grew shallow. "You don't understand," she said. "My people already marked me dead." The human looked at her again. "Then they're wrong." He removed his helmet, revealing a face covered in dirt and sweat. His eyes were tired but focused. "My name is Evan Cole," he said. "You're not dying here." She stared at him. No one had spoken to her like that before, not with certainty, not with promise. Her own commanders had spoken of efficiency, of numbers, of acceptable loss. This human spoke only of her. A warning tone sounded from his suit. Enemy patrols were closer now. Evan activated a portable shield and placed it between them and the open ruins. It flickered weakly, already damaged. He tried again to lift the slab. It did not move. The alien officer felt cold fear settle deep inside her. "You should leave," she said again, quieter this time. "You have done enough." Evan wiped blood from his brow. "No one gets left behind," he said. "Not on my watch." He reached into his pack and pulled out a cutting tool. Sparks flew as he sliced through bent supports holding the slab in place. The air filled with heat and smoke. Enemy voices echoed nearby, sharp and unfamiliar. Evan worked faster. At last, the slab shifted. He pushed with everything he had, muscles strained. Pain burned through him, the metal slid just enough, her legs were free. The alien officer cried out as pain rushed through her again. She gasped, struggling not to lose consciousness. Evan was beside her instantly. "I've got you," he said. He secured her in a carry harness designed for wounded humans. It barely fit her alien frame, but he adjusted it carefully. Before lifting her, he paused and looked into her eyes. "I'm not leaving," he said, "even if it costs me." She did not know what to say. No one had ever chosen her life over their own safety before. Enemy footsteps were now dangerously close. Evan lifted her onto his back. The weight nearly drove him to his knees. Still, he stood. One step at a time, he moved into the smoke, away from the battlefield. Behind them, the war continued. But in that moment, the alien officer understood something new. Humans were not strong because of their weapons. They were strong because they refused to walk away. And that refusal was about to change everything. Smoke covered the broken land as Evan moved forward step by step. The alien officer was strapped to his back, her weight pulling at his injured body. Every movement sent pain through his side and legs, but he forced himself to keep going. He did not look back. Behind them, enemy voices echoed through the ruins. Their language was sharp and fast. Scanning lights cut through the smoke, moving left and right like searching eyes. The alien officer stayed silent. She could feel Evan's breathing growing heavier. Each breath was slower than the last. She knew his body was reaching its limit. "You cannot carry me far," she said quietly. "Your body is damaged." "I know," Evan replied. "We'll make it anyway." She did not understand how he could say that with such calm. Her people believed in chances and calculations. Survival was measured in numbers. Evan spoke as if survival was a choice. He moved into a narrow path between shattered stone walls. The ground was uneven, filled with broken metal and glass-like rock. His boots slipped once and he nearly fell. He caught himself just in time. The alien officer felt shame twist inside her. "You should leave me here," she said again. "You will be captured or killed." Evan did not answer right away. He adjusted his grip and continued forward. Finally, he spoke. "Back home, I had a brother. He was wounded once, paralyzed for a while." Her attention sharpened. "Did he survive?" she asked. "Yes," Evan said, "because someone stayed with him." "Because they refused to leave." The words settled deep inside her. Enemy scanners passed close. Evan ducked behind a fallen structure and lowered himself carefully. He held his breath as lights swept over the area. The alien officer felt the hum of scanning energy pass over her armor. The lights moved on. Evan exhaled slowly. He checked his map display. Most escape routes were gone. The battle had torn the land apart. "There's an old supply tunnel ahead," he muttered, "if it still exists." They moved again, time stretched. Minutes felt like hours. Evan's steps grew slower. His hands shook when he stopped to rest. The alien officer studied him from her position. His face was pale. Blood had dried along his jaw. One eye was swollen. "You are in pain," she said. "Yeah," he replied, "but pain passes." She knew that was not always true. They reached the tunnel entrance at last. It was half collapsed, buried under rubble. A small opening remained, barely wide enough. Evan lowered himself again and gently slid her off his back. He checked her breathing and armor seals. "I'll clear it," he said. "You should rest," she replied. He smiled faintly. "After." He crawled into the opening and began pulling debris away piece by piece. Dust filled the air. His movements slowed, but he did not stop. At last, the opening was wide enough. He returned to her side. "This will be tight," he said, "but it's safer inside." He lifted her again and moved into the darkness. Inside the tunnel, the sounds of battle faded. The air was cool and damp. Dim lights flickered along the walls, old and damaged. Evan walked until his legs finally gave out. He collapsed to one knee. The alien officer felt his body tremble beneath her. "Stop," she said urgently. "You must stop." He nodded and carefully lowered her to the ground. He leaned against the wall, breathing hard. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt heavy. "You could have survived alone," she said at last. "Why risk everything for me?" Evan wiped his face and looked at the tunnel floor. "Because someone once told me that if you leave one person behind, it becomes easier to leave the next," he said. "And the next," she considered this. "My people believe sacrifice strengthens the whole," she said. "We accept loss." Evan looked at her. "Humans accept loss too," he said, "but we don't accept giving up." The words struck her deeply. She had led soldiers into battle. She had ordered retreats. She had accepted numbers on a screen as lives ended. This human treated one life as worth everything. A faint vibration shook the tunnel. Enemy forces were still searching. Evan checked his remaining supplies. Power cells were low, food was limited, his medical kit was nearly empty. "We can't stay long," he said, "but moving now is risky." The alien officer's eyes dimmed slightly. "You will not escape carrying me," she said. "Sooner or later they will find us." Evan looked at her carefully. "You're not a burden," he said firmly. "You're a responsibility." She did not know how to respond. No one had ever spoken of her that way. Hours passed slowly. Evan set up a small sensor near the tunnel entrance. He monitored enemy movement while resting when he could. Each time he closed his eyes, pain woke him again. The alien officer watched him. "You are afraid," she said. "Of dying?" he asked. "Yes," he shook his head. "I'm afraid of failing," he said. "Big difference." She thought of her people's commanders. They feared failure too, but failure meant mission loss, not moral loss. Evan feared leaving someone behind. Enemy movement suddenly increased. Sensors warned of approaching patrols. Evan stood with effort. "We move now," he said. He lifted her once more, slower than before. His legs shook violently. As they exited the tunnel on the far side, enemy drones appeared overhead. Energy fire struck the ground nearby. Evan ran. Each step felt impossible. His vision blurred. His strength faded. The alien officer felt his heartbeat racing. "You will collapse," she said urgently. "Not yet," he answered. A blast threw them both forward. Evan hit the ground hard, protecting her with his body. Pain exploded through him. For a moment he did not move. The alien officer feared the worst. Then he pushed himself up again. Enemy troops closed in. Evan raised his weapon and fired to slow them. His shots were steady despite his injuries. Human extraction signals suddenly flashed on his display. Allied forces were responding. Enemy fire intensified. Evan staggered forward, every step a struggle. The alien officer felt something she had never felt before: hope. A human dropship roared overhead and descended under heavy fire. Ropes fell. Evan reached one and secured her first. As she was lifted, she looked down at him. "Come," she said. "You have done enough." He smiled weakly. "Not done yet." He clipped himself in just as enemy fire tore through the air. They rose together into the sky. As the dropship pulled away, the alien officer looked at Evan lying unconscious beside her. He had risked everything for her, not because of duty, not because of orders, but because he refused to leave, and she knew now that this choice would follow her for the rest of her life. Because once you see a human refuse to walk away, you can never forget it. The dropship shook as it broke through the clouds. Warning lights flashed inside the cargo bay. The sound of enemy fire faded behind them, replaced by the heavy roar of engines pushing to their limit. Evan lay on the metal floor, unmoving. The alien officer was strapped to a medical frame nearby. Her body felt heavy and numb. Her legs were still useless, but her mind was sharp. Her eyes stayed on Evan. Human medics rushed in as soon as the ship stabilized. They checked Evan first. One of them shook his head slightly, concern clear on his face. "He pushed way past safe limits," the medic said. "Internal damage, blood loss, shock." "Will he live?" another asked. "He's human," the first medic replied. "That helps." The alien officer listened in silence. The dropship docked with the carrier in orbit. Evan and the alien officer were moved quickly into the medical wing. Bright lights passed overhead as they were rushed down long corridors. Machines hummed. Doors slid open and closed. Evan was taken into surgery. The alien officer was moved to another room. As the doors closed between them, she felt something tighten in her chest. Fear. Not for herself, for him. She lay still as medical systems scanned her body. Robotic arms cut away damaged armor. Soft lights passed over her spine and legs. "Severe spinal trauma," an alien medic said. "Nerve damage is extensive. Can it be repaired?" another asked. "There is a chance," the first replied. "But recovery will be long. Even then, full movement is uncertain." The alien officer closed her eyes. She had faced death without fear before. But now the idea of living without purpose frightened her more. Time passed slowly. She did not know how long she stayed there. Then another alien entered the room, a commander. His posture was stiff, his expression unreadable. "You were declared lost," he said. "Your survival has caused discussion." She turned her head slightly. "A human soldier saved me," she said. "Yes," the commander replied. "That is also being discussed." She sensed disapproval. "Our doctrine does not allow such risk for a single life," he continued. Human Command has filed a protest regarding your abandonment. She felt a strange mix of anger and shame. I was left to die, she said calmly, by my own people. The commander did not deny it. You were non-recoverable, he said. The decision was correct. Her eyes hardened. Then your doctrine is flawed. The commander stiffened. Before he could respond, a human officer entered the room. His uniform was clean, his face serious. With respect, the human said, your decision nearly cost us an ally and one of our best soldiers. The alien officer watched the exchange carefully. Our soldier acted without orders, the commander said. He endangered the mission. He saved a life, the human replied. That is always the mission. Silence followed. The commander turned away and left without another word. The human officer stepped closer to the alien officer. He's still alive, he said quietly. Relief washed over her so suddenly it almost hurt. When can I see him? She asked. Soon, he replied. He's stable, barely. Days passed. The alien officer underwent treatment. New support frames were fitted to her body. Neural links were attached along her spine. The pain was constant, but she endured it without complaint. Her thoughts were always on Evan. Finally, she was moved into recovery. Evan lay in the bed beside hers. His face was pale. Tubes and monitors surrounded him. His chest rose and fell slowly. She watched him for a long time. This human had carried her through fire and ruin. He had ignored fear, orders, and logic, all for her. She felt unworthy of it. When Evan finally opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was her. Guess we made it, he whispered. She leaned closer. You should have left me, she said softly. He smiled weakly. And miss all this, he replied. Her voice trembled despite herself. You could have died. He shrugged, slightly wincing. Still here. She searched for words, none felt enough. You changed everything, she said. For who? He asked. For me, she replied. For my people. He closed his eyes again, exhaustion pulling him back into sleep. Recovery was slow. Evan's body healed faster than expected, but the damage remained. He walked with pain. Some days he could barely stand. Still, he trained. The alien officer worked even harder. Every day, she pushed her body through therapy. She fell more times than she stood. Pain became her constant companion. Humans visited often. They spoke to her like an equal, not a liability. Her own people watched from a distance. Whispers spread across the fleet. The story of the human who refused to leave spread faster than any report. Some called Evan reckless, others called him foolish. But many began to ask questions. Why did humans risk so much for one life? Why did they refuse to accept loss so easily? The alien council summoned the officer. She was moved into the chamber on a support platform. Her legs were braced and still weak, but she held her head high. The council members looked down at her. You survived due to human interference, one said. Yes, she replied. Do you claim their actions were justified? She did not hesitate. Yes. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Our doctrine is built on efficiency, another council member said. Emotion weakens decision-making. She looked up at them. Emotion strengthens resolve, she said. Humans do not fight because it is efficient. They fight because someone matters. That belief will cost lives, a council member argued. She met his gaze. It saved mine. Silence followed. She continued. I was abandoned because I could not move. The human stayed because I was alive. That difference matters. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. You question our ways, the lead counselor said. I question losing ourselves, she replied. The council dismissed her without judgment. But the damage was done. Change had begun. Later that day, she visited Evan again. He was sitting up, struggling with a mobility brace. You should be resting, she said. Doctor said I could try, he replied. Didn't say I'd succeed. She watched him try to stand. He nearly fell. Without thinking, she reached out and steadied him. Her legs trembled. But they froze. You're standing, Evan said softly. So are you, she replied. They shared a quiet moment, neither speaking. Outside the medical wing, alarms sounded briefly. Another conflict, another crisis. The galaxy did not slow down, but something had changed. A human soldier had refused to leave. An alien officer had survived. And now both of them stood at the edge of something far larger than a battlefield. The war was no longer just about territory. It was about values. And humanity had drawn a line that could not be erased. The council chamber was quiet after the alien officer was dismissed, but the silence did not last long. Across the fleet, conversations began. Commanders argued. Analysts rewrote reports. The words acceptable loss appeared again and again, now questioned instead of accepted. The alien officer returned to the medical wing. Her legs were still weak, but each day she stood longer. The pain never fully left, yet she welcomed it. Pain meant feeling. Feeling meant she was still alive. Evan was already there, sitting near the window, watching the stars drift by. "You should be resting," she said. He smiled without turning. This is my version of it." She moved closer, her steps slow but steady. "You caused trouble," she said. He looked at her then. "That's not new." She allowed herself a small smile. For a while they watched the stars together. Ships moved in silent lines, preparing for the next phase of the war. "My people are divided," she said at last. "Some see you as a threat." Evan raised an eyebrow. "A little late for that." "They believe your choice undermines discipline," she continued. "That if soldiers choose people over orders, everything breaks." Evan leaned back. "Discipline that breaks because someone did the right thing was already broken," he said. She nodded slowly. "My people do not think in those terms," she said. "We were taught that survival of the many justifies the loss of the few." "And now?" Evan asked. She looked down at her legs, then back at him. "Now I know the few remember being lost." Before he could answer, an alert sounded through the medical wing. Not an emergency alarm, but a priority summons. Both of them recognized the tone. The alien officer's expression hardened. "They want me again," she said. This time the chamber was full, not just her species council, but human representatives as well, military leaders, observers, strategists. The air felt heavy. The lead counselor spoke first. "The war has reached a critical point," he said. "Enemy forces have fortified the northern continent. Our projections show extreme casualties if we assault directly." A human general folded his arms. "Your projections assume standard retreat protocols," he said. "They don't account for human response patterns." The counselor's eyes narrowed. "Which is precisely the concern." All eyes turned to the alien officer. "You were present when a human refused retreat," the counselor said. "Explain the outcome." She did not hesitate. "The outcome was survival," she said. "Mine and his." "And the cost?" another council member asked. "A soldier injured, supplies expended, a delay in evacuation." "And the benefit?" She lifted her head. "Trust." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The human general nodded slightly. "Human units fight harder when they trust the ones beside them," he said. "That trust comes from knowing they won't be abandoned." "Trust does not stop weapons," a council member argued. "No," the alien officer replied, "but it makes soldiers stand when fear tells them to run." Silence followed. The counselor leaned forward. "You suggest altering doctrine based on a single incident?" She met his gaze. "I suggest learning from it," she said. "Your efficiency saved resources. His choice saved a future ally." The human general stepped forward. "Our forces are prepared to lead the assault," he said, "but not under protocols that demand leaving wounded allies behind." The chamber erupted into debate. Numbers flashed on displays. Probabilities shifted. Loss estimates rose and fell. At last, the counselor raised a hand. "Enough," he said. "We will test this human doctrine." Eyes turned sharply. "A limited engagement," the counselor continued. "Human-led units integrated with our forces, no abandonment protocols." The human general nodded once. "Agreed." The alien officer felt her breath catch. This was more than strategy. This was a gamble on values. Preparation moved fast. Evan was cleared for limited duty despite protests from medical staff. He strapped on his armor slowly, movements careful but practiced. The alien officer watched him from her platform. "You are not fully healed," she said. "Neither are you," he replied. She considered, then nodded. They were assigned to the same command group. On the surface of the planet, human units moved differently. They advanced in tight formations. When one fell, others slowed to protect them. Alien units watched, uncertain. Then the enemy struck. Fire rained down. The ground shook. Chaos threatened to break the line. A human soldier went down, armor shattered, unable to move. Alien units began to pull back by instinct. Evan shouted over the channel, "Hold position, cover left." Without waiting for orders, two humans moved to the fallen soldier. They dragged him to safety under heavy fire. Something unexpected happened. The alien units did not retreat, they held. Watching humans risk themselves, something shifted. Lines steadied. Fire returned with focus. The assault pushed forward. When another alien soldier was wounded, a human moved without hesitation to help. The alien officer saw it all from the command feed. Her chest tightened. This was what she had tried to explain. The battle lasted hours. By the end, the northern continent was secured. Casualties were high but lower than projected. More importantly, morale was unbroken. Back aboard the carrier, the council reconvened. The data spoke clearly. The counselor looked at the alien officer. "Your survival was not an anomaly," he said slowly. "It was a demonstration." She inclined her head. "Humans do not calculate loyalty," she said. "They choose it." The counselor turned to the human general. "Your people accept unacceptable risk," he said. "Yes," the general replied, "because some things are unacceptable to lose." The council voted, not to abandon doctrine entirely, but to change it. The phrase non-recoverable was removed from joint operations. Across the fleet, new orders spread. No Allied life would be left behind without attempt. The alien officer returned to the medical wing one last time before deployment. Evan was there, adjusting his gear. "You won," he said. She shook her head. "No," she replied, "you did." He paused. "I just didn't walk away." "That was enough," she said. She stood beside him, legs trembling but firm. "I was trained to believe my worth ended when I could no longer fight," she said. "You showed me worth does not end with weakness." Evan looked at her carefully. "Where I come from," he said, "we don't measure people by what they can do when they're strong." She waited. "We measure them by how they're treated when they're not." The ship's engines hummed as it prepared to jump. Outside, the war still waited. But it was not the same war anymore, because somewhere between smoke and ruin, a human had drawn a line. And now an entire fleet was learning to stand on it. The war did not end with celebration. It ended quietly. After the doctrine change spread through the Allied fleets, battles continued, but they felt different. Units moved with purpose, not panic. Retreats still happened, but they were organized. Wounded soldiers were pulled back whenever possible. Even when the cost was high, the effort was made. Across many worlds, something new took shape. Trust. The alien officer stood on the command deck of a rebuilt carrier, looking out at the stars. Her legs were supported by a light frame now, no longer heavy braces. She could walk short distances without help. Each step still hurt, but she welcomed the pain. It reminded her how far she had come. Behind her, Evan adjusted his armor pack. He moved more carefully than before. Some injuries never fully healed. He accepted that without complaint. "You are thinking too loudly," he said. She turned slightly. "Is that a human skill?" "No," he replied. "Just experience." She faced the stars again. "My people have begun rewriting our training," she said. "New officers are taught that wounded allies are not lost assets." Evan nodded. "That'll save lives." "It already has," she replied. Reports flowed in daily. Enemy forces were retreating across multiple systems, not because they were fully defeated, but because resistance had become impossible to predict. Humans fought harder when they trusted their allies. Alien units fought harder when they believed they mattered. The enemy had no answer for that. The final campaign took place on the same planet where the alien officer had once been left behind. The land was still scarred. Craters remained like open wounds in the ground. This time, the Allied force advanced together. Evan's unit moved through the ruins carefully. Old battle markers still stood, broken and rusted. He recognized the area. Smoke no longer filled the air, but memory did. The alien officer watched from a forward command position. Her hands tightened slightly as she saw the terrain. "You don't have to be here," Evan said over the channel. "We can handle it." "I was left here once," she replied. "I will not stay away." The enemy made their final stand near the old command ridge. Heavy defenses waited, strong weapons, hidden traps. The first wave was brutal. Several soldiers went down, and just like before, no one left them. Evac teams moved under fire, shields flared. Medics crawled where machines could not. The alien officer issued orders with calm focus. Her voice never wavered. At one point, an enemy blast struck close to Evan's position. His armor took the hit, throwing him hard against a wall. He hit the ground, stunned. Pain exploded through his side. For a brief moment, everything went silent. Then he heard footsteps, human and alien boots together. Hands grabbed him, pulled him back. He laughed weakly as he was dragged behind cover. "Guess I'm not getting rid of you that easily," he muttered. The medic beside him replied, "Not a chance." The battle lasted until dusk. When it ended, enemy signals fell silent. The war was over. There was no grand speech, no dramatic announcement, just a quiet message across all channels. Hostilities ended. Stand down. On the surface, soldiers sat where they stood. Some laughed. Some cried, some simply stared at the sky. The alien officer was helped down from her platform. She insisted on standing on her own for the final report. Evan stood nearby, leaning slightly on a support rail. "You're shaking," he said. "So are you," she replied. They stood together as Allied flags were raised across the ruins. In the weeks that followed, tribunals were held not to punish but to understand. Records were reviewed, doctrines examined. The phrase non-recoverable was officially removed from military language across 3 Allied species. In its place, a new standard was written. Every life will be attempted. The alien officer was invited to speak before a joint assembly of worlds. She stood before representatives of dozens of species, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "I was once considered expendable," she said. "Not because I failed, but because I could not move." She paused. "A human soldier chose to stay, not because it was efficient. Not because it was logical, but because leaving was wrong." She looked across the chamber. "That choice changed more than my fate. It changed how we fight, and more importantly, how we value one another." There was no applause, but there was agreement. After the assembly, Evan waited outside, arms crossed. "You did well," he said. "You gave me the chance," she replied. They walked slowly through the corridor. "What will you do now?" he asked. She considered. "I will help rebuild," she said. "Not just cities, beliefs." He smiled faintly. "Sounds harder than war." "It is," she replied, "but it matters." Evan was offered commendations, medals, promotions. He accepted none of them. When asked why, he answered simply, "I did what anyone should." History would disagree. Across the galaxy, human soldiers gained a reputation that spread faster than any fleet. If a human fought beside you, you were not alone. If you fell, they would come back for you. Not because you were useful, but because you mattered. Years later, the alien officer returned to the battlefield alone. The land was quiet now. Grass had begun to grow between the broken stones. She walked slowly without support. She stopped where she remembered lying trapped under metal, unable to move, waiting to be forgotten. She stood there for a long time. Then she turned and walked away. The war had taken many lives, but it had also revealed something rare, a species that refused to accept loss as normal, a soldier who refused to leave, and a truth the galaxy would never forget. Empires rise and fall, weapons change, doctrines evolve, but humanity's strength was never in how hard they hit. It was in who they refused to abandon.